because our economic relations with Africa are simply a continuation of European colonialism, perpetuating exploitation by other means. Africa trades more with Europe than it does with itself.
Africa has been a strategic point for most Western countries, and whenever we voice out, some people will go like, colonization stopped centuries ago, so why do we still blame Western countries for Africa issues? The fact is, colonization never stopped. It was just rebranded. I want us to watch this particular video from an European parliamentarian. I will be back.
I don't think you'd have to be a genius to know that the last thing the Horn of Africa needs is more foreign military bases, more weapons, and more European meddling. What we call our strategic relationship isn't about human flourishing, it's about the EU's ambitions as a superpower. There's now a new great game in the Horn of Africa. Greater and lesser powers are pockmarking the place with military bases. France, the US, China, Germany, Japan, Italy, Saudi Arabia all have a presence in the tiny area of Djibouti alone. Mercenaries are swarming in from all quarters. The entire region is being militarized. War is in the air. And what about the people facing climate and food insecurity? None of this benefits them. We talk about instability, but we only make it worse. We flood the place with weapons, hand over the profits to European arms companies and charge the bill to our citizens. And then with the carnage, we go back in and we do it all again. It's a racket. Strategic relationship, it's one thing after another, isn't it? Really, it's the same as it ever was. And all I can say is, God save Africa from Europeans offering help. But the truth is, it's a million miles from the reality of EU-Africa trade policy as it exists now, because our economic relations with Africa are simply a continuation of European colonialism, perpetuating exploitation by other means. Africa trades more with Europe than it does with itself. It's portrayed as a poor continent, but actually it's the richest. It's just that the people there are denied the fruits of their land and their labour by unequal economic relations, by unfair trade rules, by illicit capital flights into the Western banks, and by multinational corporations allowed off the leash by Washington, London and Brussels.
Colonialism still exists. It was just rebranded. Whatever the woman said has already been said here before. A lot of Africans will be asking you questions that, how come colonization stopped centuries ago, but we are still blaming Western countries and European countries for our woes? Yes, you think you gained independence. No, you did not gain independence. Somehow, Africa still hasn't gotten economic freedom. Some years back, when Guinea gained independence from France, France decided to maintain their control on Guinea. They wanted Guinea to use their currency. Somehow along the line, the president of Guinea, who was Sékou Touré, told them that is not going to be possible because at the end of the day, they have gained independence and they want to be free from France economically, and anything that was tied to France should be scrapped. France did not take this message well, and they decided to destroy everything that they built in Guinea. It took Dr. Kwame Nkrumah to borrow Guinea. It was not borrow. He dashed them $10 million US before Guinea were able to stand on their feet. So any country that decided to be independent outright was a threat to the European countries. So most of the countries that were okay with the France rules, which is these French-speaking countries in West Africa, were still under France colonialism when it comes to economically. They were still under France colonialism. That is why these French countries are now fed up with France still controlling their resources, France still controlling their currency, France still letting them put their money in France bank for them to re-borrow that money for France to take interest. That is why today we have the countries like Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali taken over by coup d'etat. So those Africans who think Africa is somehow independent and they don't have to blame Western countries again. Africa has never been independent. After independence, they still impose their political systems, which is now they call it democracy, which I deem it as fake democracy. They still impose this system on you for you to be controlled by them. How come any African leader who try to do otherwise, apart from their so-called democratic system, they call you a dictator, and if you are not careful, they hire people to assassinate you or eliminate you? Yes, in front of the world, people will think Africa have independence, but deep down, Africa never gained independence. That independence that was given to us 60 years ago was fake independence. The Western countries still control our resources. They still dictate to Africa. And any leader that will try to challenge them will be eliminated. That has always been the case. So it's about time Africans we wake up and take things or take our destiny into our own hands. Yes, it's no coincidence that every African leader that comes to power somehow tends to be a corrupt leader. Even if you are not careful, today's generation that are calling the other generation corrupt will one day also be called corrupt. Because if we don't put our foot on the ground and implement our own systems, if we don't put our foot on the ground to implement systems that will favor the continent, we are always going to call ourselves corrupt, because at the end of the day, the systems that has been put in place determines who to become a leader in Africa. The systems also allows politicians to be corrupt. The systems also allow politicians to think corruption is okay. Yes, our political systems has been drafted or has been drawn to only attract elites, those who have money. So most of the times, those who have money, when they climb to power, it's more like they invested and they are now coming to reap their profits. That is exactly what is happening in Africa. They charge huge money before you pick a political form to stand as a candidate in your political party. So if somebody can afford huge amount of money, which most of the times they get sponsors from outside during their campaign, they go for loans from outside and exactly they come to power. Those he went for loan from them becomes a shareholder of that country. They come and take big contracts. They come and dictate how our resources are used. These are the problems. Western countries has open military bases in most of the African countries. Yes, you think you have control. No, you don't have control. Our freedom is just a smoke screen. Our independence, so-called independence, is all a smoke screen. We have those who controls our resources. So don't think we have control of our own destiny. Till we decide and African unite and take decisions that now enough is enough and we want to take things on our own hands or take our destiny on our own hands, and we decide to go to world market with all our small countries, it's going to be difficult to succeed as a continent. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on your notification button so that anytime I upload any great content, you will be notified. Thanks for watching.